There are three main objectives of this discussion. First is to familiarize the resources and the documents related to ethics and research, and we have covered that already. Second is to explain the concepts related to ethical considerations, especially ethics in research involving human participants. And we have done that in our discussion in part 2 and part 3. And finally, is to know how to write ethical considerations in your research proposal. I've done a little bit of that in part 3, and in part 4, I'll be showing to you 2 sample documents from the outputs of your classmates. So in general, practicing ethics in research is a way of life. It makes sure that the studies we are conducting not only satisfies the researcher's curiosity, but also is able to take note that the benefits of these research should be able to help address the needs and problems of a person, a group, or the society in general. So, how do we write ethical considerations in your research proposal? Here, I'll be showing to you 2 outputs. The first output will be from Renelin's revised output, and the second one is from Julia. So let's start with Ren's output. So here, you will notice na ako yung mga comments dira, and that those comments mo na akong ipang discuss. Now, as for the outline, this is good. Now, the first paragraph talks about what the study is about. Okay, so nindot siya. The literature review overview and how the gap of the literature is being addressed. Nindot po siya. But you will notice here, it already occupies 2 paragraphs. So if you are creative enough, pwede pa ninyo mapagamay. Maybe you can put it in 1 paragraph in order for you to save space and mas brief siya so that helps the reader quickly look into it and mas masabtan siya. Now here, I like the idea that Ren tries to put it into several sections. Okay, so these sections include, of course, first is the introduction, followed by the target participants, with a table on the inclusion and exclusion criteria. So mas nindot ni siya, mas maklaro siya. Even Patino and Ferreira used this kind of presentation. But dili kinahanglan. Dili kinahanglan nga table pirmi ang inclusion and exclusion criteria. Okay? Then after that, we have the risks and benefits. Again here, for the risk and benefits, you have to justify that the benefits that you can get out from the study are greater than the risks it will be entailing. So if there are psychological harm, you minimize it and you maximize the benefits. Okay? So for example here, if a psychological distress is being experienced in an experiment, as a researcher, you have to stop the experiment. Okay, it will somehow provide an experience of harm to the participants, and that will be unethical. So dapat priority gihapon nimo ang well-being of the participant than your study. Okay? So the benefits, for example, should be addressed to first the benefits of the study in general in addressing the literature. Pwede po ka moingon unsay benefit ana to your participants. So it can be both ang imong discussion. Next is the informed consent. In the informed consent, this one, daghan og mga elements na kinahanglan nimo istoryahan. But there are 2 main elements that you need to consider here. First, the participants should have the right to refuse and withdraw from the study anytime they want without any negative consequences. Mao gina siya ang pinaka-importante. Ikaduha, the participants have the right to ask about your study. Okay? And you do not have to withdraw information, kaya unethical na siya. If the participant asks about your study and even the results of your study, pwede ginani mo siya tagaan. Of course, without any personal information from other participants. So mao gina ang pinaka-importante sa informed consent. Now, in the data protection plan, I like the idea that Ren talked about having control to the access of the collected data and having it as encrypted with a password. However, kinahanglan mo provide og details as to unsa may mga pamaagi in order to control the access of the collected data and to put a password on it. So what software will you be using, or unsay mga step-by-step process ana. Dili kinahanglan nga detailed kayo, such as 1 page or 2 paragraphs. At least naalay idea ang ethics reviewer giunsa nimo to secure that the data are being kept securely and at the same time anonymized siya. Okay, so that's data protection plan. Okay, here the references, walay problema. Diri lang. For your tools, especially for tools nga kinahanglan i-translate into Cebuano, especially for those tools nga ang ilang mga participants involve minors or involve participants who are not able to understand English language well, so kinahanglan i-translate na nimo. In this case, ang participants ni Ren dili man kinahanglan og translation into Cebuano versions, so dili na ka kinahanglan mag-translate. Ang ako lang comment ani is that you need to provide scoring instructions. So for for a scale, in the appendices section kinahanglan gyud og scoring instructions. And wala ni siya scoring instructions. So Ren, you have to provide scoring instructions for this one. Okay? But other than that, those are my comments for Ren. You will see here ang mga informed consent, kompleto man, especially katong 2 considerations ng akong gi-istorya. The first is the right of participant to refuse and withdraw from the study, and ikaduha, the right to ask questions. Okay? So yeah, these are my comments for the output of Ren. Now let's go to another output. Ang isa ka output kang Julia. Okay, so Julia starts with the introductory paragraph, which is good. It talks about the overview of what the study is about and unsa pod ang research design. In this case, it's a grounded theory research design. Nalang ko yung mga specific comments, for example, providing citation. Okay, so kinsa man ang nag-describe ani or nag-define ani on who a prisoner is. Prisoners or the PDLs, persons deprived of liberty. Here also, kinahanglan naagid kay inclusion and exclusion criteria. Dili kinahanglan nga table format, but kinahanglan specific ang imong inclusion and exclusion criteria. You may refer to Patino and Ferreira for the details. So how do we recruit the participants? So mao ni siya. Sa recruiting of participant, I would suggest that you provide a good outline for it. So for example, kung nag-start kag coordination, so mo na imong outline 1. What's the coordination part? Aha ka nakig-coordinate. Proper authority and other transmittal letters. Ikaduha dayon, scheduling part. Giunsa nimo pag-schedule ang imong data gathering. Nana ba kay contact with the actual participants or kinahanglan pa kamo agi appropriate authority. Ikatalumi is the data gathering proper. No? So data gathering proper, unsay mga buhaton nimo, unsay first step, unsay last step, and if there are red flags, kinahanglan po kamo refer. Okay, so kinahanglan mas nindot lang ang iyang outlines, especially in terms of the recruitment process. And good, si Julia also talked about risk and benefits. But please take note, the risks can be physical or psychological risk. Okay? And the benefits can be both to the study and to the participants. So, mao ni siya ang gipakita karon ni Julia when she talked about emotional support. Okay? And the interview to be therapeutic and self-acknowledging. And also, in order to minimize the risks, si Julia niingon diri nga mag-refer siya if there are some red flags being experienced by the participants. Okay? And finally, data protection plan. Again, in terms of data protection plan, kinahanglan yun nga specific. Okay? So specific yun dun sa mo pag-store o pag-secure sa data. You have to provide details for that. Okay? And finally, the informed consent. Okay gihapon, kompleto ang mga details ang gihatag ni Julia. I like also the idea nga iya siyang gi-bullet form. There's nothing wrong with that. It depends now on your writing style. However, here, in Julia's interview questions, you have to provide a Cebuano version of it. Especially to all interviews. Sa katong mga ganahan og interview ang ilang method, kinahanglan na kay Cebuano version. Because our mother tongue, if your participants come from the Visayas, is Cebuano, so kinahanglan conversational ang imong interview. For that to be conversational, kinahanglan na kay vernacular version. Or in this case, a Cebuano version. So, Julia, you need to translate all these questions into Cebuano. Dili kinahanglan na kay translation process. Meaning, i-translate nimo from English to Bisaya or Cebuano, then from Cebuano to English, which is we call back translation. Dili kinahanglan ni siya. Kaya dili man ni siya established scale. Kinahanglan lang naa kay Cebuano version for it to be more conversational. Well, in general, maura ang akong mga comments for Julia's outputs. For those who have the same concerns regarding ethical considerations, I hope the discussion in these two examples are able to shed light on your confusions or maybe concerns. If you have any questions, of course, we will have an online consultation during the specific schedules that we set. So, yeah, so if you have questions, feel free to contact me and let's talk about it. So, in general, there are 4 parts of our discussion with ethics review. And for the first part, we talked about the resources and the documents related to ethics in research. The second and third part, we talked about how to explain the ethical considerations and its related concepts. And in the fourth part, atong gitanaw ang mga sample outputs of your classmates in order for it to be helpful in your own outputs. So, thank you so much. Contact me if you have any questions.